Okay, so now we what you call it, in country. You get on an airplane. You leave from California, I'm assuming.
For Vietnam?
Yeah,
No, actually, I left from Fort Lewis, Washington.
Washington State.
Because when I came down to levy for Vietnam, I was in Berlin, Germany. In fact, I just gotten married. And you go home on 30 days leave, and from there they send you to what is called Vietnam orientation training.
Oh yeah, you talked about this.
In 2 weeks, they're going to teach you how and what the Vietnam War is all about and how to survive in Vietnam, and they're going to do that in 2 weeks.
In Washington State.
In Washington State. So this was, I think, it was in
They're
March,
similar.
March or April, March, and in Washington State in March it rains every day, all night, every night. So that was the only similarities between what we're supposed to be learning in Vietnam.
Yeah, I think NASA trains astronauts better for Mars than we did soldiers for Vietnam.
Oh, absolutely. It was 2 weeks. I went through basic training, advanced base or AIT, where you learn how to do whatever your job is, and mine was infantry at the time. You learn how to be an infantryman, and that teaches you how to shoot a rifle, throw a grenade, and all that kind of good stuff. There's no tactics really involved or anything else. So in 2 weeks, they're going to teach you tactics, what Vietnam's like, what Charlie is like, the Viet Cong.
In redwoods, in a redwood forest.
In a rain-soaked redwood forest in Washington.
Where there's no palm trees.
Exactly.
Nothing to hide behind.
So that's why when I go to the classrooms and I tell the kids in the classrooms, I said, nobody was prepared for what they found when they got to Vietnam. I mean,
do you think that's true for every single soldier in history? Honestly.
Probably.
You can't. I don't think.
How do you train somebody like my grandson was in Afghanistan? How do you take somebody here in the States and train them to fight Al Qaeda, whoever it was? They're fighting ISIS and stuff in Afghanistan. You can't do it. You can't do it. And Vietnam there's never been a war like Vietnam. There's never been a war fought like Vietnam. You weren't fighting, here's our line, here's your line, we'll get together, we're going to shoot at each other and blah, 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 we're going to take this city.
Yeah, there's no get Berlin, it's over.
There's no guidelines, there's no to us strategy or tactics that was explained to where this is how you're going to do your job when you get there. When you get there, you go out to the jungle and they say, and if you ask, well, what are we doing? Killing Visu.
Yeah, so tell me about your first firefight, which you said was literally 4 days in country.
About
so you
4
land
days.
In Vietnam, and 4 days later you hear the first pops.
And in fact, I asked, I was an E5 because I'd been in the Army for about 3 years then. And that was a little bit to my benefit because I had a little bit more training than some of the guys. Some of these guys only been in the Army for 6 months when they went to Vietnam.
Wow.
And when you get out there, you say, you ask, well, what's it like? And hell, the guys have been there for 8, 9, 10 months. Well, it's a little bit hard to explain. And he says, we get up in the mornings, we walk, we hunt Charlie all day long. Just before dark, we set up the perimeter and blah, blah, blah. And I says, well, how do you know when you find him? They says, you'll know when you find him. He'll start busting caps on your ass. And I says, well, how often does this happen? He says, sometimes every day. And I thought, are you serious? And he says, sometimes you might go 2 weeks and nothing.
The mental stress that must have. I mean, that's like walking around on a minefield,
exactly,
not knowing where the mines are, of course.
And the worst part of it is, until you've gotten into that first firefight, you're walking around for 4 days wondering, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And then having no clue what it's going to be like when it does happen. And about the 4th day out, we're walking, and all of a sudden the lead element, one of the platoons up in front, we were somewhere toward the middle of the back in our platoon, you start hearing the rifle fire. They sprung an ambush. Well, Charlie's all over the place. And all of a sudden you hear ping, ping, ping,
So the sound of a bullet passing your head
it sounds like you can almost hear it going past you.
It's crazy.
Or you hear it hitting the tree or the ground beside you or something, and you thought, oh my God. And the first thing you do, you freeze. I mean, you're taught to hit the ground, try and take cover if there is cover, whatever the situation is. And you don't see Charlie. I mean, you're assuming there's 20 or 30 guys shooting at you, and you don't see a damn thing. All you do is start shooting. I mean, just for the sake of returning fire.
Try and get someone to put their head down.
Trying to get them to slow up a little bit. Maybe I'm coming close enough that they'll say, wait a minute, we picked the wrong time to do this. And that went on for probably an hour and a half.
2 hours. It's not,
you get a little
not
bit.
even,
You get a little bit of a lull, and all of a sudden you start hearing the gunfire coming from a different site or a different direction. So you know they're in either one or more places, or there's more of them than you thought there were. And we had one of our guys, and one of the guys in my platoon got hit. You know, he didn't get killed, but he got hit. And then you realize, you know, hey, this shit's real. And
yeah, how did you feel after when it finally stopped and everyone started breathing again after the hour and a half, 2 hours? What goes through your mind?
well, one of the first things I thought was, he says this sometimes happens every day. And I thought, holy shit. And he says sometimes, you know, you might go a week or 4 days before this might happen again. He says, and after it was over with, we were sitting that night after we set up a perimeter, and they said, you know, sometimes that lasts for 5 or 6 hours. Sometimes it lasts for 5 minutes. And you thought, and like I say, after about the first or second firefight, and you see what's going on, and you start seeing people get killed and shot, you pretty well come to the mindset there's no way in hell you can do this for a year and live. I mean, it's not even feasible to even think it.
A year is insane. Look, and 2 hours is insane. And you got to come back and
2 hours.
it's like playing with a jack in the box as you walk in the jungle.
You know, that reality set in 2 hour and a half, 2 hours. Reality set in, and honestly, and it's hard for somebody to probably believe it when you say it. You're convinced you're going to die. I mean, you can't imagine going through that for a year and surviving. And Hal Moore, he said it pretty well.
Yeah, Hal Moore's the guy from We Were Soldiers. Mel Gibson played Hal.
He was the battalion commander, and he said when the I Drain thing ended, he says, I'll never forgive myself. And when Joe Galloway, the correspondent, says, for what? He says, because my men died and I didn't. I mean, he felt. So that's
guilty. Survivor's guilt.
He felt guilty because he didn't die.
But you don't think that adds to the weight of coming back?
It has to, and especially if you were over there for any length of time, and you saw a lot of quote unquote your friends, and I don't know that friends is a good word to use, but you see a lot of them fall, and you wonder why didn't I? How did I not?